Now, the Wall Street Journal reporting that Vice Media is closing in on a deal that would include George Soros's Soros Fund Management to acquire the media company out of bankruptcy. The deal, reportedly valued at around $400 million, would wipe out nearly every current Vice Media stockholder. The Journal reporting that other investors could appear to outbid Fortress Investment Group and Soros Fund Management, but that may be very unlikely. Joining me now to break all of this down is media strategist and host of What's Bugging Me, Dennis Kneale. Dennis, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. Well, it's quite a story, isn't it? Because I want you to know that as a old school journalist, an ink-stained wretch, I was at the, in mainstream media when we watched a company like Vice Media grow up into, by 2017, a $5.7 billion colossus. It was worth twice as much as the New York Times. It was worth 22 times the price that Jeff Bezos paid to buy the Washington Post. And it insisted, Shane Smith, the founder, Michael, Shane Smith insisted, we are going to be the next CNN, ESPN, New York Times. And today we see it being bought out and put out of bankruptcy at worth a less than 1/10 of its peak worth. Disney had invested $400 million, wrote it all off in 2019. And so we got to think about what this shows in terms of lessons for investors, for people who watch the media, and for Americans in general.
Dennis, let me just switch a little bit to the Soros situation here. So Soros, he's reportedly spent, and you know this, over $40 million on so-called soft-on-crime district attorneys across this entire country. And now he's looking to put money into another media company. What do you make of that? He has obviously his own agenda. How does that, how does this play out if he buys another media company?
Sure. And so on first glance, I don't like it because Soros' philosophy is bad for this country in many ways. The thing is, by putting, part of the $400 million into Vice, which includes debt, that means the company's worth even less. He's not going to reach any viewers. That's the reason this company's basically going out of business. They don't have enough viewers. They said they were going to be the voice speaking to the young. The young don't want to listen to what they have to say. And so if Soros does manage to pull off this deal, all right, it's going to be putting out a whole bunch of liberal propaganda. But that's what Vice has been doing for more than 10 years, telling the media, Shane Smith, you guys at the New York Times, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what the young want. I know. Invest in me. And later we now see, well, even they don't know what they're doing. And so I'm not worried in terms of propaganda, Michael, about the wrong message getting out there. It already gets out there with the mainstream media anyway. So we don't have to worry as much about that, I'm hoping. Well, one more thing, Michael, remember, go ahead.
But that begs the question. One of the concerns, look, I believe that in the First Amendment completely. That means the First Amendment, for me, protects speech that you don't like, things that you don't agree with. I want all voices to be heard. I don't believe in cancel culture, but I think some are concerned that because most of the mainstream media, not everyone is tuning into Newsmax, although they should be, not everyone is, and the vast majority of mainstream media already has that left bent. Do we need more of this? But overall, how do you see it?
Well, I think you're right about that, Michael. But let's remember something. What bothers me is these new journalists were supposed to come. They're going to wipe out our old industry. They're going to wipe me out. And now they're in my email box asking for donations, Vox Media and Vice and ProPublica. And they were going to show the world Shane Smith was going to show the journalism world that he knew the way it was by speaking to kids at their level. And now we know it's a business failure. And Michael, journalism is not a ProPublica style of publicly funded pursuit like NPR. Journalism is a business, and you've got to reach an audience and sell ads to them and make money on it. And Vice Media failed utterly, and therefore Soros is going to fail utterly. And the only people he's going to be reaching is this little thin sliver of the already converted. The people who are hopelessly liberal.
Dennis, let me just ask you in 30 seconds, what's bugging me? What do you cover on that podcast?
Well, this week we have a special episode coming up on Thursday on a focus on internal affairs. So how to reinvent yourself, how to get your own house in order before you try to change your career, how to move from one marriage to another. It's going to be quite interesting. We got a guy who's bench pressed 360 pounds. Newsmax entered him, Jack Haley. He's going to come on and talk about mind over matter and body.
Well, my friend Dennis Kneale, everyone, We appreciate you coming on. And again, your podcast is What's Bugging Me. It's available on iTunes and Ricochet. I just want to thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Michael. Have a glorious Sunday.